A very common question among Catholics, and especially sometimes to priests, people will often ask, who is your favorite saint? And I usually have a pretty good answer, but sometimes it depends on the day or the week, kind of who I've been reading lately or whose life has really resonated. Well, I've been on lately a little bit of a kick with a 20th century Spanish priest named Saint Jose Maria Escriva, the founder of Opus Dei. Saint Jose Maria had just a wonderful way of explaining things. He could do it in kind of a short, with a quick story, with a good quote that just kind of gets you moving. So most recently, I've been reading about an exchange that St. Jose Maria had as a priest to one of his people, and they were talking about salvation. What does it take to be saved? And the man that he was talking to had a very kind of low bar of what God is asking of us. So this is what the man said. He said, "Father, I don't steal, I don't kill, I pay my taxes, I mind my business. I suppose that's enough for God." Well, Jose Maria, very quick with a retort, shot back and said, "Enough for what? To avoid prison, perhaps, but not enough for heaven. God does not want minimums. He wants your whole heart." What a beautiful expression of really living the faith, of striving for something greater, of not settling for that which is the minimum. Now, it's true that God, of course, wants our hearts. We just sang in the responsorial psalm, Psalm 95, "If today you hear his voice, harden not your heart." So God doesn't just want our hearts. He wants our softened hearts, hardened against kind of the miseries and the sins of the world, a grateful heart, and our whole heart. But it's also true that the church does have minimums. We call them the precepts of the church. And I want to share them with you very briefly. There's 5 of them. And this might be new to some of you. This might be a little refresher for others. But there are kind of 5 minimum things that the church asks of every Catholic. And here they are. Number 1, you shall attend Mass on Sundays and holy days of obligation. Pretty basic. Every Sunday that you're able, if you're not super sick or have some sort of job that requires you to be there, police, fire, hospital, things like that, you get to Mass. Holy days of obligation as well. That's the first. Second, you shall confess your sins at least once a year. Pretty basic, pretty straightforward. You shall receive Holy Communion at least during the Easter season. Number 4, you shall observe the days of fasting and abstinence established by the church. And number 5, you shall help to provide for the needs of the church. Those are the precepts, the minimums. Now, maybe one of those you are currently struggling with. Maybe one of those has been a challenge over the years, right? The church lays out this minimum and says to all of us, meet that minimum. Get there. If one of those 5 things is not currently in your life, then let's go. The church says, come on. We're setting kind of a bar that all of us ought to be able to meet according to our own vocations and states of life. And that's what we all have in common, these 5 precepts, these 5 actions that will help us in our relationship with God, that will help us to grow as a community, as a parish. But what we heard from St. Jose Maria Escriva is that God doesn't want our minimum. And so if these minimums are not in your life right now, then let's meet the minimum. Strive. change something in your life to be able to meet these 5 precepts. But you could say, well, I'm living all of those, right? The guy that he talked to, his parishioner, who said, I didn't kill anyone, I don't steal, I pay my taxes, I mind my business. That's got to be enough for God. But what is enough? What is enough for the God who created us? What is enough for Jesus Christ and him going to the cross to save us? What is enough? What God is asking for from each of us, no matter who we are, no matter what state of life, no matter how old we are, God is asking for a total dedication, asking for our whole heart, our softened, not hardened heart. So yes, at a minimum, go to Mass, go to confession, fast and pray, support the life of the church. But we sometimes, and I'll speak for myself here, sometimes we can get into kind of a mode where we act like when we're living our faith that we're like doing God a favor. The gospel talks about this. When you have done what you are obliged to do, don't expect a big party. Don't expect a lot of thanks for doing the minimum. We've done what we are obliged to do. In some ways, that ought to just bring us joy. To be able to follow God's will, to be able to follow these basic precepts of the church is one, it's going to be good for us. It's going to be good for our family. It's going to be good for our parish. It ought to be a source of joy. But oftentimes we can treat our faith sometimes as an obligatory thing, a box to be checked. If that's a mindset that maybe you have now or you've had in the past, that's something we really want to push away. That's something we really want to work on. If you walk out of church on Sunday and say, all right, I'm done, me and God are good for another week. That's not the way a relationship works. Can you imagine a spouse saying, no, I saw you last Sunday, we're good. You never do that, right? In the life of a marriage, in the life of a family, right? We want to spend a lot of time together all throughout the week. So we're not doing God a favor by coming to Sunday Mass, by going to confession, by supporting the church, by fasting and praying. God doesn't change. God's happiness or sadness doesn't change based on what you and I do. But ours does. A relationship with the Lord lived out in the life of the church is just simply going to make your life better. It's going to make your family life better. It's going to help you and your family and those around you ultimately to achieve, with God's grace, the salvation that he won for us. So, as we go out this week, just a beautiful opportunity. If we're not doing the minimum, let's get to the minimum. You know who you are. Maybe you feel a little ping in your heart at this moment. Yeah, he's right. The church is right. I gotta get there. I gotta do this or do that. But ultimately, that you and I, no matter who we are, no matter where we are, that we do that with a grateful heart. A grateful heart for all that God has done for us. Let's meet the minimum, and then let's exceed the minimum. Generous and grateful hearts for all that God has done for us.